During the actual discussion, I was welcomed very warmly into the room, and we were placed at the end of a long table, but I was placed with them, with my two examiners. The external was there and the internal examiner, and straight away they reassured me and said, we are just going to discuss the issues from your thesis, and we want to discuss it as equals around the room. So that put me at my ease straight away. And then we just discussed the various points. They had two long lists in front of them, which when you first walk into the room, that can be quite disconcerting, because you think, oh my God, how much have they got there and everything else, and have they pulled it apart? What sort of questions are they going to ask me? But actually, they were more clarification points that they wanted to, and explore with me in more depth some of the issues. I said earlier about not being able to include everything within my literature, and certainly that was one point that was raised. How did I deal with identifying the most pertinent things to include in my literature because of the range of outcomes that I was looking at? So I think that you have to be prepared for that side of things. What was your priority and what did you deem as important? The actual process itself was very friendly, challenging at times, and in a way that they are making you think more in depth. You know your subject area very well, but they come from a different standpoint on certain facts that you've made and certain assumptions that you've made. And it was quite useful to be able to have that debate with two academics who were interested in the field. And I think that also helps you to think past your thesis and think, well, this is somewhere that needs to be followed up on for future research or needs to be explored in more detail. So I think that was quite useful, and by the end of the discussion it was certainly that they had included me as an academic, as somebody who had undertaken research, and as an equal partner in the discussion, and ideas were bounced backwards and forwards about other things that could have been looked into, changes, additional associated factors that could be considered, because there was always the time lapse between when you collected your data and when you actually present your data, especially if you're on a part-time basis. So that was quite interesting as well. The actual Viva lasted approximately an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half. And that seems like a long time, but actually being in there and fielding the questions and having the discussion, it went very, very quickly. And after the initial period of an hour where they were asking me questions around my thesis, the last 20 to 30 minutes were around discussing the topic area, the overarching topic area of teenage pregnancy, and how my thesis will inform policy and will inform current service provision for teenagers during pregnancy, and what areas I felt I would like to look into further, postdoctoral research areas that I would like to look into. And the other area was identifying papers from my thesis and whether I had thought about which publications or where I was going to publish for my thesis.
Was it a pleasant experience?
I think beforehand I was very, very nervous around it, and I think one of the issues with that was, because I was working as an academic within the university already, I felt as if there was more pressure in one way, because you're already employed as an academic. So expectations from your colleagues are that you're going to sail through and there's going to be no problems, and of course you can do it. And I was already a research active person anyway within the university, so I felt even more pressure, I think, than if I was a full-time student who was just at the university to complete their PhD studies and then leave. So I think in that way it was very nerve-wracking beforehand, and the pressure was high beforehand, but actually during the actual process of the Viva, they made me feel so comfortable that that wasn't an issue for me once I'd got over the initial nerves.